Hello everyone, I'm Jessica Blackbird. Welcome to my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. Well, as promised, I'm giving my take on Candace Owens' speech that she gave at the premiere of her documentary, The Greatest Lie Ever Sold, and it's about the Black Lives Matter Corporation that, in my opinion, and hers obviously, was a total scam. They took over the movement, Black Lives Matter movement, that was started after the murder of George Floyd, and they used it to enrich themselves. So stick around, listen to the entire thing if you care, give your opinion at the end in the comments, and remember, we all have our own opinions and we should be respectful to other people's opinions. Remember, an opinion is subjective and we all have one. Okay, see you guys in the comments.
By my own Black peers. I was told that I wasn't allowed to say the truth about who and what George Floyd was because the victim narrative felt too good and people had become so comfortable in being the victim and being treated like the victim.
So I'm just going to interject right here, you guys. When she says she wasn't allowed to tell the truth about who and what George Floyd was, she always says that he was a criminal and that he doesn't deserve like a statue. And yes, he was a criminal. That is the truth, and no one can take the truth from the truth, right? So and you guys, I think that he does not need a statue to himself because of what happened to him. What happened to him when Derek Chauvin took his life, George Floyd's life, with a knee on his neck, it shocked the world as we all sat there and watched the life drain from a human being. Forget that his name was George Floyd and his past. He was a human being who had children. And his children most likely heard about what happened to him. I think his kids are little. And how their father was killed. And I'm not anti-police at all because Kennedy from Louisiana, his commercial says if you don't like the police, call a crackhead next time you need help. Well, I won't be calling any crackheads because I'm going to call the police. So hopefully I never have to call the police. Knock on wood. But his past, his history as a convict and, someone who robbed people doesn't give him a death sentence. So Candace and I disagree a little bit in that way because, it doesn't matter what he did in his past. The way that he was killed shocked the world and people were outraged. People of every race were outraged about how this man was killed before our eyes. So, but I don't think that he should have any statue to him. What happened to him kicked off the Black Lives Matter movement, which is different than the corporation that took over the movement. So let me shut up and finish listening to Candace, you guys. All right.
I believe honestly that what we are seeing in America is an entire group of people that are being trained to race to the bottom. People are fighting to be oppressed. People want to be able to jump on board and accuse one another of oppressing constantly. What I was talking about with my friend Ye is that we are very quickly arriving in a trauma economy where people want to constantly pretend to be traumatized by various instances. And what it's ultimately doing is it's weakening all of us. It's weakening all of our relationships with one another. And I think the greatest thing is that it's weakening our relationship with God. We exist together as one nation under God, right? It's important to say under God, not beside God, not on top of God, not above God, but under God. And what this culture has become largely has been an atheist culture. And I can talk to you about how they did it to Black America, and it's important to understand the story of Black America, because if Black America was the experiment in understanding how you could sell trauma to a group of people, then right now they are running that experiment on all human beings across the globe.
So I'm going to cut in right there to where she said that Black Americans were sold trauma. Black Americans, remember, there were slaves. There were slaves. They were traumatized. The things that happened to those people, human beings, that was unforgivable. Right? Those people that experienced all of that trauma, all of that horror as slaves, that was unforgivable for them. However, we don't need to forget what happened in the past, but we can't hold those people here and now with us accountable for what other people did in the past, right? And we are all here in this nation, Americans under God. So we shouldn't continuously live in the past. Although, like I said, don't forget the past. Always remember, because only a fool will forget and have it happen all over again. But so yes, people went through trauma. But if you look at my grandparents, your grandparents, everything that happened to those slaves made them stronger. They were not victims. They were strong and capable and able, and they made a life. They thrived. And it's so different now. It is really different than what our grandparents and our parents lived. The world is changing fast. And I agree with her that there is a lot of people who want to live in trauma. But seriously, now don't get mad at me, you guys. Right now, it's not Black people or white people. It's the LGBTQ people right now. And no, I'm not a hater. I'm just saying from my experience what I see.
Focusing on Black America first and seeing what happens to a group of individuals that buys the victim narrative, that believes that they can be nothing else but oppressed. They never get ahead in their lives. They never are at the top of companies.
So I'm going to cut her off right there. I don't know if she's speaking specifically of people who she says are always feeling traumatized in the Black community. But let's not forget how many successful Black people are at the top of their game. Oprah, Tyler Perry, doggone it, Byron Allen. There's so many. I'm not going to, the guy, I don't know his name. He was the head of BET and sold his company. There are so many CEOs. Puff Daddy, whatever his P. Diddy, Jay-Z, I could go on and on and on. So what she said in that instance is incorrect. There are so many at the top of their game. And then she's going to say, about the black kids who can't read or write. Everyone in my family can read and write, but I do know. I remember there was something called social promotion when I was growing up, where there were kids, mostly black, a few white, who didn't know how to read or write, and they got promoted as they became too old to be in a class, and they were promoted continuously until they graduated not knowing how to read, barely knowing how to write their names. So that is correct also. But I guess I don't know why she chose to like just talk about black people in that instance. Maybe because it's about Black Lives Matter. And let me just stop rambling and I'll get back to her speech.
And they are consistently told that it's because of racism and not because they have no belief in themselves. I want to obviously allow you guys to watch documentaries, so I don't want to say too much other than to first and foremost thank God. I had the most liberal route to conservatism, and I grew up in an incredibly religious household, and I resented that when I became a teenager and throughout my college years. I resented that, and I became a more secular individual, convinced that atheism was the path for me. But I now realize that by destroying that pillar of faith in American society, every other ill has followed. When we talk about why it is that we have so many Black Americans that can't read and so many Black Americans that can't get ahead, it's because after they destroyed the God pillar, they went after families.
I'm going to agree with that. They did destroy the family when the welfare system came about. That is the truth. But now in 2022, it's not just single black mothers. There are single mothers of every race, although there are more single black mothers. But I mean, the welfare system toppled families. Women were incentivized to raise families alone with the help of the government and, not have the father in the picture, which is just evil in my opinion. I mean, God wants you to have the father and the mother and the children all together as a family. That is why he created Adam and Eve, right? So that is the foundation of a family. Let me get back to her.
It is why the topic of broken families is not a joke. It is not a joke. People will tell you the incarceration rates that face Black men, but they won't communicate to you how many of those Black men grew up without a father in a home. The denigration of men that we are seeing in society with movements like Me Too, with movements like Time's Up, fraudulent movements that are actually around just to disempower manhood.
I agree with that also. Like I said to you guys before, I agree with 90% of what Candace says and believes in, because what she believes in, because I'm just like that. Like, I just believe that this world, not just this country, is on a dangerous path of godlessness, and we need to correct that. We really do.
And to make manhood obsolete. Let me tell you.
Oh, and about the Me Too and Time's Up. Well, the Me Too, I think it was created by a Black woman who wanted to tell her story of being assaulted. Taronda, I think her name was. I can't think of her name, but it was taken over, and after it was taken over, they went after the rich and famous. And just like, let's use Amber Heard. I don't believe, that is my personal belief, I do not believe the things that she said about Johnny Depp. But she used the Me Too movement to get her, in my opinion, lies going. And it's still going on now. I think it's a fraud. I think, yes, there are women who are assaulted. But if a man says, "Hey, honey, looking good today," on the job, that is considered assault. If a man, touches your hand in the workplace or in a bar or anything, you could say you were assaulted. When I was growing up, assaulted meant something entirely different. The lines are being blurred. There are men who are so afraid to meet new women and, go out. They're afraid. And that shouldn't be. You know what's going on? They're trying to destroy the family, that unit, right? So let's get back to Candace.
There is no country and there is no household within a country that can survive without strong men. We need men. But the radicalized feminist movement is teaching us the exact opposite. It is teaching us that women can do it all by themselves, and that to aspire to family and to aspire to children and to aspire to being a CEO, as women are in their households, is something that should be looked down upon. It is because they destroyed family, and it's because Black America has a 74% single motherhood rate, that we are seeing these individuals turn to culture naturally. Because the government knows that if there's not a mom and a dad sitting around the dinner table, then those kids are going to pursue maternity and paternity elsewhere. That elsewhere tends to be the streets.
Okay, so she's right about that. And also, when the mother is single and she's working her butt off to put food on the table and pay the bills and make sure her kids are in school and doing well, those kids have so much time alone. And they're being raised by tablets and iPhones and Androids and laptops and computers, TikTok, YouTube, although YouTube is more strict, I must say that. They're being raised by the internet, and she's going to talk about hip hop music. Well, I believe the music is different from when I was growing up. My brothers listened to hip hop when we were growing up. I was a headbanger growing up, okay? I was totally into rock and metal, and country music and R&B, but I never really liked rap. So the music now is completely different. I don't even look at it as music. And these rappers these days, the younger ones, all they do is rap about violence. And that is why we are seeing so much violence and murder on the streets. Because these kids emulate what they hear. They imitate what they hear and what they see in these videos. That is my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
That elsewhere tends to be when they put on their headphones and they listen to hip hop music. And suddenly they are emulating the people that they see on their screens and on TV shows, aspiring to that lifestyle and not aspiring to something better. The last pillar beyond faith and beyond family that we have to talk about is the education system, which is systematically teaching children to be dumb and to be emotional so that they can use narratives like the Black Lives Matter narratives to inspire them to go outside and to act like fools. And that obviously is a pillar that many people in this room have been fighting. And it is the ultimate fight because what we are fighting for is for our children to know the truth. And you understand that, of course, in this room, we represent counterculture. We did this countercultural thing by talking about God and talking about families for whatever reason that is against the stream, the mainstream, if you will, media. But the most important thing is to make sure that we fight for the future of our children. They cannot survive in this world.
So you guys, that was the portion of her speech that I wanted to share with you all. And I agree. And some people are going to be highly pissed off about what she said. instead of taking it in and saying she's actually speaking the truth. She's not putting black people down. She's speaking what we all should be thinking and speaking. And I totally agree with it. Something has to change. But kids are being raised, like I said, by the internet. And one of the most detrimental things on the internet, in my opinion, is TikTok, especially here in the United States. I'm pretty sure you guys have heard that company is owned by a Chinese firm. And in China, those things like the kids see here, it's not allowed there. So all of these stupid challenges where kids have been hurt or killed by these challenges that are on TikTok, all of this indecency on TikTok is not allowed in China, okay? So my advice, like I said, I don't have children, but I love my nieces and nephews. I love them so much. And I care about what happens to them. And in their future, I want them all to be well. This culture that we are in is very sick. It's full of indecency, immorality, murder, and something has to change. All right, you guys. I hope you guys don't get pissed off with me. We all have opinions, and let me know what yours are in the comments, but let's be respectful. Remember, I'm a black person and I love my family and my friends. I love black people. I love blackness. There's something special and strong about us, but we're being torn apart by this immoral culture that we live in now. And it started in the 90s, you guys, when gangster rap came out. And now some of these guys are saying that, you know, if you weren't a gangster rapper talking about gangs and all the, you know, inner workings of gangs, then you weren't going to make any money. So they sold out. And then the gang culture blew up. And some of them have come out and talked about that and how wrong it was. So take your kids off of the internet. That's for every race, because there are children of every race right now who are so confused. They're mutilating their bodies and they regret it when they're older. So get them off the internet. If you give them permission to be on, make sure that you're monitoring everything, and take the damn TikTok away from kids, especially little kids. The devil is walking this earth, you guys. We are all human. We are the human race. It doesn't matter what color your skin is, all right? It doesn't. We all have to go before God one day. So let's do what we can while we're here on earth to do good and be kind, be merciful to one another, and stop looking at one another for the color of our skin, like Martin Luther King Jr. said, and look at the content of our character. And there's violence and crime in every single race. Violence is perpetrated mostly in the community, like whites on whites, blacks on blacks. But because of the music that black youth listen to, there are more murders going on, more robbing and killing, on black crime. So parents, take the damn murder rap away from your kids and get them into after school programs, especially if you're a working single parent. And let's save the future. All right. All right, you guys, let's talk about this in the comments.